LOLz is back after a Thanksgiving hiatus. The chat is fired up about $100,000 BTC. Do we have a beef brewing? I saw Neil Orfield and Ship My Money going at it on Twitter. We'll dig into that and, whatever else our hearts desire here on LOLz with Pete and Bric. Let's do it.
Does he think? I think he thinks this. He thinks this is a go. Vegas Dave thinks this is a go.
Hot naked girls doing yoga.
What?
Why don't you just win like a man?
Random.org. Type in 1 for yes, 2 for no, and let the DFS gods pick for you.
And I'm absolutely begging you not to dupe us. Please don't dupe us.
So back-to-back streams for you, Brian, and under the weather. Is this your Jordan flu game performance this afternoon?
Yeah, it's really hard, doing YouTube. So is there anyone watching from who just I'm interested if anyone came over from the other stream.
From in-game?
Because no, from Davis's channel. Oh, I guess it was streaming on Endgame too. Because he forgot to set up the redirect. He didn't rate us.
After everything I do for Davis, helping his burgeoning YouTube career, you can't even toss us a little redirect back this way. Okay, we had a few people. Here we go.
He is all right, sweet. He is so jelly, guys. Did you guys see that at the end? He's so jelly of Pete.
What?
He's like I wouldn't be there. He's watching. Tell me I'm wrong, Davis. Like he's like I wouldn't be maxing the VR if Pete wasn't doing so well because he wants to bank.
The irony is I think I've only maxed the BR like 3 weeks.
Oh, now you're just rubbing salt.
Can I have a real question for Davis that I've been meaning to ask, and I love how LOLz just becomes us talking to Davis in the chat. I never see Davis in any of the side contests. Like why aren't you playing the fullback dive? Why aren't you playing these side contests? It's a quicker path to a bank. You're going against less people. You have to be so fucking perfect to win the BR. Davis, you should be spamming the side contest so you can say you won the $20 victory formation. You get your horns, you get the clout, you get the YouTube title. Why aren't you in the side contest, Davis?
Good point. Yeah. Because they don't pay $40K to first is the answer. I mean,
I've had some crazy stories lately. It was the guy Steve a couple weeks ago, 74-year-old. Davis is going to love these stories too. 74-year-old finishes top 5 in the Wildcat. That's the $3 contest. And then I was doing my portfolio review on Monday, and someone's aunt finished, I think it was top 10 in the Deposit Kingdom tournament. So the olds, Brian, are taking over the game we love. Maybe the game has passed Davis by because he's actually too young, and it's an old man's game.
Holy cow. Yeah. It's like reverse what normally happens. The youngins usually dominate. Maybe it's the youngins, they're just too busy on their TikTok, right? And saying ass and
glaze
glaze too much. Right.
Dude, I don't want to do the whole thing of like, talking about the fucking broken X algorithm again, but like my TikTok algorithm, which I feel like gets a bad rap, traditionally it's like, oh, we're all like the filth and the dancing girls in yoga pants. Like my TikTok algorithm is good. It like gives me what I want. It knows what I like. It's the X algorithm now where I'm seeing like this absurd violence, all of this like trash, like smut type stuff. It's weird how that flips so quickly because before it really did seem like the opposite.
Yeah. I have to agree with you. Even though I do love Twitter.
Yeah.
It has been getting a little worse lately. Because I told you, I thought for mine was because I follow so many MMA guys,
right?
So I have to I have to mute a lot of violent stuff. I can't stand that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I like violence in the ring because two people agreeing to it, in a professional setting. But yeah, the violence in real life, I hate that.
Yeah, and it is like I mean I've talked about it before. I've like curated my feed. I use lists and all of that stuff. But it's even now like you read a reply. And then they jam, like, it's like they do the, you might also like this right underneath the reply. You can't escape it. I was looking at something yesterday, a thread, and then underneath it was like 10 disasters caught on film, like moments right before hundreds of people died. I'm like, well, what? I don't want to watch this. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. That stuff. The thirst. I think there's no way you're not going to get the thirst on anything though. Like, right.
Yeah.
There's gotta be, even on TikTok, I imagine even with the algorithm you like, there's thirst traps on even in your feed, right? Or no?
Yeah. You know what my feed has gotten? Which is kind of helpful for me. I started following a few of these. I don't know how to like even describe it. They're like little meta commenters on like what's going on TikTok. So they'll be like, oh, these influencers are beefing, or like this thing happened or whatever. And they do like pretty good summaries, like 60-second summaries of like, this is what happened. You've probably been seeing this in your feed. So I kind of get like the explainers, which helps me keep my finger on the pulse of what all the youth that you're beating in Madden are up to and consuming. So I get a lot of stuff like that. Like I know all about the Luke Bryan ex beef, whatever. He broke up with his girl and they've been going at it or whatever. I learn all of my stuff from TikTok explainers, basically.
Well, okay, so you're plugged in. So that's how you know what glaze is and cap and here's
this is actually a really funny one. Yes, Lou says, have you seen Hawk Tuah? So there's these two guys. I don't know if they're comedians. They're pretty funny. They do a podcast reviewing the Hawk Tuah podcast, but it's extremely dry, like tongue in cheek, and them just being like hypercritical of like every little thing that happens in the podcast. And it's very funny.
Okay. Cause I thought that was the girls podcast, the Talk to a Girl.
That's called Hawk Tuah. This is Hawk Tuah.
Oh my God. I can't believe she's a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm crazy. I mean, like even, what's his name? Bill Maher had her on.
Yeah.
Why is Bill Maher having this girl on?
Did you see she's launching her own meme coin?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got to be an op, Pete. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this girl is clearly an op.
It is pretty wild, right? Because there have been these
right
meteoric
Davis.
Yeah. What's the conspiracy? Because I'm willing to hear it, because all of the opportunities and the stuff, the people, didn't she just have Mark Cuban on? I think she had Mark Cuban on her podcast too. I'm like, how is she pulling this shit? Either she has the greatest publicist of all time, or tell me what the conspiracy is.
I mean, I don't know what he's referring to. Honestly, I just know it is a conspiracy. I just can't prove it.
Someone in the chat tell us what the conspiracy
Somebody
is.
tell us what the conspiracy is, but there's no way this is an organic fucking phenomenon. Come on. I don't believe it.
Fine. We'll let it go. But it is wild. It is, because normally I just feel like, I don't know, you think about all the like reality TV stars, or it's like, oh, you were on The Bachelor and you like blew up. Like all of those truly are the like 15-minute of fame and they fizzle out. But Hawk Tuah, this Tuah girl, I feel like she's getting momentum. Like it's just a snowball. She's getting bigger. I mean, she's not flaming out anytime soon.
Yeah, like what are some other ones? What was that guy? Anthony, the country singer. Remember him last year or 2 years ago? He had a country song.
Okay. That
just blew up. I'm telling you would know who I'm talking about if I could remember his name. He did like a country song, Richmond, north of Richmond.
Okay.
But like you don't hear him anymore. He was huge for like a month. Just like to your point, like that, like usually they come and go, but this girl's getting, and like, can you imagine like our ancestors for a second? And their minds would be blown. You're like, what's she popular for? Well, grandma, Hawk Tuah.
Yeah, man, that's one. You know what? I think I dodged a bullet. I just realized at Thanksgiving, because neither Bitcoin nor the election came up at Thanksgiving dinner. I'm just realizing that now. In Bitcoin, which just hit 100,000, it does still feel like I don't have like the normies in my life that are talking about it. Obviously, everyone in the Discord, everyone on the internet, everyone's very excited about it. But I still you remember that first bull run, the Bitcoin, when it was like at 3,000 and it ran up to like 20. And that's when everyone was talking about it. Mm-hmm. I felt it was leading to so much more normie conversation. Maybe I just don't hang out with normies enough. Do you feel like this 100,000 is like, spilling over into the normal parts of your life?
It's funny you mention that, because my brother keeps DMing me. Has anyone texted you yet? Has anyone texted you? Because usually what has happened, he uses it as a signal. Like if some of my normie buddies from high school go, hey, do you have any Bitcoin? Do you know what Bitcoin? A text like that
Yeah.
is a top signal. And I haven't gotten
Yeah.
anything after the crossing. Well, actually, I've been on stream for hours now, but I still
Yeah.
don't think I've gotten anything.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it does maybe speak to it feeling like more of a mature asset, right? Where when it makes news headlines or whatever and your family's talking about it, it's because it's this weird novel story that popped up on the local news. I guess I did get a notification. I get like New York Times, like news notifications or whatever. And it's normally like political or like a big world event. And they sent one out for Bitcoin hitting 100K. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting that they're actually using one of their email blasts for that.
Do you think it's like the reason it's not as big as 3K to 15K is it just because the GPP kind of factor is worn off? Like you can't win a GPP anymore. You know what I mean? Like I can't just buy a little Bitcoin and then I'm rich next year. Like it's just too expensive.
Right. Not to mention, there's always been the issue with normies at Bitcoin where they don't realize that you could buy 1/1000th of a Bitcoin. They're like, shit, I'm priced out. I'm not buying a $100,000 coin.
Yeah. But when you could buy 3K and make 15K, that's doable. But, they don't care about the 3K. But when you got to buy 100K and what do you make a 5K, they don't know. It's like, it's over. Or something, maybe, or it's just reached that point, maybe.
But I think like part of those top signals and your uncle at Thanksgiving talking about it or randos messaging you. I always remember the Bales story. They were in like a hotel in Vegas, and someone like was talking about Ethereum in the elevator. And they're like, "Oh shit! Like this is
sell.
We gotta sell." But I just feel like all of those people, the interest and the intrigue around it wasn't a lotto ticket. Like my uncle wasn't thinking about a lotto ticket with Bitcoin. I think they're like, this internet money is worth how much? Like it was looking at like the world's tallest man or something to them. Like it was just this bizarro circus freak show thing. But I guess I'm just wondering why it isn't as bizarre to them now. Maybe it's just so much more of the culture.
Yeah. I mean, I bought my dad a Bitcoin gift card, my father-in-law a Bitcoin card for $50 in 2011, 2012. So it's like they're now worth, 10 grand, 15 grand. I don't even know what it's worth now, but something crazy. So like maybe a lot of people did that sort of thing, and it's just it's reached what's the term where it's reached, a popularity, like a plurality about, of people know it. What it is. I mean, it's just that popular. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, CNBC talks about it all the time. Right, like Jim Cramer tanked it, right? Did you see that one? He said buy Bitcoin at 99 or whatever, and it immediately dropped 10,000.
Well, my wife works at a financial services company, and she mentioned Bitcoin to me because a lot of, the way that a lot of the people in the traditional, equity markets or whatever approach Bitcoin is just like a very set percentage of their overall portfolio and investment. And when it became such an outsized portion of it, they wanted to immediately rebalance. So it was a lot of people who were like, let's take some profits off and redistribute Bitcoin, because now it's like, okay, this rips so much. Like, I don't want to have 30% of these assets I gave you to manage, like in Bitcoin. So I actually thought that was funny. Like in the traditional finance realm, they're like, no, this is performing well. We don't need to be this invested in Bitcoin right now. Whereas then you talk to like the hodler community and the internet community, you're like, you're not prying my Bitcoin from my cold, hard, dead hands.
Definitely. Oh yeah. I mean, the hodlers are a big part of why it's gone so.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I think both of us are among the hodler side. That, but the institutional money definitely has to be driving it, like a big chunk of this. I mean, and you gotta give the Trump win seriously. That really had to been like 20K of this, like because of all of his nominate. He went to the Bitcoin conference with RFK. They're both, and then he, what's his name? Gensler stepped down, right? Like shortly after.
Yeah.
It's just like BTC win after BTC win for like 2 weeks straight, and then boom. So probably all those things are the reasons gotten.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's if Kamala won, there's basically no chance we're at 100K right
No. I didn't think it would be that dramatic though, but yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, that's driving. And didn't I forget? I mean, there's been like a million of his cabinet noms, but one of them is a very pro crypto, like looser crypto regulation guy, right?
Yes, one of them. I can't remember his name. He's got like $1 billion in Bitcoin already, like personally. But this is what we want, right? We want the incentives and consequences lined up with ours.
Do you ever, with all of your like long-term BTC, do you ever take some profits off the table or redistribute, or are you just like hodl?
Just ETH?
Yeah.
And you know what? I probably wouldn't have ETH if Top Shot didn't come around, because Top Shot broke my ETH cherry. I took some ETH off the table probably a while ago to buy this place. But the Top Shot cherry, I wasn't cashing out $50K and whatever. Like, we spent a lot of money in Top Shot, Pete. A lot of money. Could have another house.
Did I tell you? I know I mentioned it on the Swolecast. I literally logged in to Top Shot to complete a joke I was writing for the Swolecast Overzet overview, and I just found the offers tab, which had legitimately improved since the 2 years ago when I last looked at it. And I just like sorted by highest offer. It just like spam clicked accept on like 15 offers within like 10 minutes, and took my $1,000 off the table. I'm sure still taking a crazy bath on it, but I was like, oh yeah, I should probably go in here and continue to liquidate as I remember.
You know what? This might be your year, right? If you keep crushing the best ball streets and whatever.
Take the losses.
Yeah, maybe this is the year we cash out and I'm assuming we can take that, put that on taxes, right?
I think so. Yeah, we should actually look.
We should look at it. Yeah, because if you're gonna have to pay an extra 20-30K,
I know
this year.
I know Davis will take his. I still like. I have some spreadsheets with like the co-ownership between. Because there was Davis, there was you and Corain had some stuff.
Yeah,
it's Corain. It was
shit show. But like it's all negative. It's like all tax savings at this point. So who cares?
Oh, that's all it is.
Yeah. So like it's not a big. So if there's 2%, we lose 2% here, 3% there. It's all.
For some people, it might mean about 15 extra BR entries, Brian.
Well, Davis, now I think about it, like if he's having a negative year, but owns his own business, he's got to talk to his accountant. He might be able to write those losses off, but no, he's not a professional. I don't know. Probably actually. Well, I do. I mean, like just like for legitimate, if you get audited, I'm not sure he could legitimately claim being a professional. Maybe he could.
Yeah.
I don't know enough.
No, this is not financial advice. Do your own research. Please consult a tax professional.
Don't sue us. Don't dupe us.
Don't sue us. Don't dupe us. How did you guys just did the sim stream, right?
Yeah, we did. We did 2.
I believe I saw the title. It was Brilliant Mathematician. Did you guys figure out which one? I tuned in and I saw 3 people on screen and I wasn't sure who was who. Who was the brilliant mathematician?
Dan.
Oh, it was Dan?
Yeah.
Okay.
He ruins another game, everyone. First was DFS.
Wait, why what was I didn't get to watch. I've been working on stuff. Why are the games solved?
He solved it and he's giving away the advice to everyone, to the whole world. So game's over.
Man, I've been thinking about it a little bit because I've been looking at Nerdy's stuff for optimal things, and I still think there's so much I don't know what the word is, like nuance or like application of it specific to like building out a portfolio. And like, because I was thinking about it here, and I'll ask you this question, maybe Nerdy in the chat has thoughts on it. Like, so you have the optimal rates, and even like the dog shit guys are still probably should be drafted at like a 1% clip or whatever. But then you're saying like, if you're building your 150, would you ideally just want to map your 150 directly to the optimal rates and then build around those? Or would you want to then compare the optimal rates to the ownership, find the guys who are relatively under-owned, and then go super heavy on that? And I realize this ultimately comes down to like a risk tolerance thing like usual, but I'm curious, like, how would you ideally use that optimal data, assuming you had all the time in the world to handcraft your exposures in this contest?
That's a good question. I swear to God, I was just thinking about this like last week. And then I asked Dan if he could do it for DFS too. And then like, how can I use that or make a tool for DFS to do exactly what you're talking about? So like, I think that there's two ways, right? The EQ way or the exploitive way. And so the equilibrium way or the exploitive way. And if I'm doing equilibrium, which is probably better for me, because I'm not a no baller like you are. Well, I mean,
a little bit.
Think every week.
I do know what you mean because I do NBA. I've been doing NBA, and that's the epitome of me knowing zero ball. And like, it is nice to like scroll down in NFL and have some thoughts and takes on some of these players and be like, I could IKB the projection. Whereas NBA, it's like, I have no IKB prowess in that sport. So I know what you mean.
Let me give a quick example, and then we'll go back to the portfolio thing.
Yeah.
But like in the stream earlier, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. The sim doesn't know that Jalen Hurts has this push tush shit, and he can vulture the Saquon Barkley in touchdowns, and that would probably be a little bit worse. And then Dan went on to explain that a small change in EV can make a huge change in strategy, and like you see this in poker easily with like if you change your opponent's range slightly, it could have a huge change on your strategy. What was the point I was getting at there? But that's no ball. That's that stupid thing that everyone in chat, I guarantee everyone in chat here, or 99% knows about Hurts, vulturing touchdowns from Barkley, so that pairing might not be that optimal. Yeah. So like being a no baller isn't everyone has to be petty theft and you to cow. You know what I mean? So there are levels that you got, which is another reason why you really want to know what your sim and projection provider are doing and putting into there, so you can make those changes, your no ball changes yourself.
Well, and that's what I was thinking, because like, one of the thing that Nerdy posts, right? He posts like the overall like stacking data, bring back data, but then he's been posting really granular stuff on how to use a specific quarterback, how often they're naked or skinny stacked or whatever. And I've been thinking about like, there's parts of, let's take last week, the Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels, because he runs a lot, can be used naked a ton. But then like the skinny stack, like most people, and maybe it's a bad example because this is what hit last week, but most people are going to use Jaden Daniels stacked up with Terry McLaurin. Like that's going to be the most popular way to use him. And I'm wondering too, if like, maybe that's the way to kind of get exploitative a bit of like, I will avoid those uses of Jaden Daniels, and I'll use all the other ones, stacking him up with the other guys, single stack, use him naked, just knowing that the field is going to predominantly play in both ways. And even though it is going to show up in a majority of winning instances, maybe that's offers the path of least resistance to me winning.
Yeah. So if we fast forward to the exploitive, that's exactly what I was going to say. Basically, you need two pieces. You need the EQs numbers from Dan's stuff, and then the combo ownership from the draft caddy, like for BRs anyways. And then you just go the EQ for who did you say, McLaurin and Daniels? Let's say it's 43%. Yeah. That should be the proper number for the field as a whole. Mm-hmm. And then we go look and it's 60. I don't know. Let's make it. Well, now you should be taking less if not none in exploitive fashion. But if you were doing the EQ strategy, you would want about 43% because then your opponents couldn't exploit you one way or another.
And then that'll probably raise your overall like ROI on the slate. But when that does hit, like last week, now you're playing a 4v4 against like hundreds and hundreds of lineups who also have that.
Yeah. I really like the EQ, I think, in DFS more. So like, first of all, we don't know. We're guessing more because we don't have any information. We don't have the information we have with best ball. We have people betting money and picking and doing real drafts, and ADP actually matters, where in DFS we're totally guessing. So guessing at those combos is really hard. So like, let's say there's 3%, the optimal rate is 3%, three with one bring back or something. I don't know, making up a stack. Well, you should probably get around that number in your 150.
Yeah.
I think that makes that EQ strategy make sense. And you could also do that though on Sunday with BRs. You could go, okay, this week we're at 5%, 3 wide receivers, whatever high would be, 10% or something that's higher than, and then just get to that number.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're probably right. And so like to explain Dan's going to say something here. Okay. Easiest exploit is when the EQ strat mixes with the field, mostly goes one way. Just go there. Yeah, sure. And an EQ strategy can be an exploitive strategy too. I think some people don't understand that. So like, let's say, who was the guy, Dan, this week? Was it Justin Jefferson? Was simming higher because, ETR likes him or whoever likes him. So Cardi likes him, whatever.
He's in the dome. Cardi definitely likes him.
Okay, there you go. So, so an EQ strategy still is going to be taking Justin Jefferson a lot.
Right.
It's not going to just go, oh no, we got to stay balanced. Like that's not what it means. I think people get that confused because in some ways, like the paper, rock, scissors analogy is really good to explain it quickly. But then everyone thinks, oh, well, then I just do 33% of Jefferson, and then I can't get exploitative or I can't get exploited.
Right. Well, and to me too, Justin Jefferson still falls in that range. I know it's been a rough year for him, it's, the threshold moves, but on most slates, there's somewhere from 7 to 15 guys who just have access to a different ceiling than the rest of the pool. And generally, I'm not looking to IKB things too hard in that range. I just want to mix and match them. Maybe I'll be slightly under, but then it's really picks 15 through 36 where I'm starting to think of all of these other angles. Avoiding the combos, getting the more unique stacks, getting over on the guys who aren't 100% drafted that should be drafted at a higher rate. But with those top guys, I think I'm way more willing to just have the equilibrium and be like, all right, ETR doesn't like Nico Collins as much as the field, but whatever. I'm just going to take him at this clip because I know that the ceiling is there basically.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of recommend that strategy more broadly in these, especially in like the non-correlated sports where you tier players and then use some sort of randomizer within the tier.
Yeah.
Like a good I think EQ analogy is the rooms analogy.
Will you define that? I mean, I think we all know the word equilibrium, but will you just describe exactly kind of what you mean when you say EQ?
Yeah, like for DFS anyways, it's kind of different, based on the game we're trying to beat, but at least the strategy. But you're trying to play in a way your opponents can't exploit you, I think is the easiest definition of it. Dan, you could probably give a much more coherent definition than me. Like a good way to kind of think of it is like if you think of I don't know, Jaden Daniels, let's just use him for example. Mm-hmm. If the field wasn't allowed to take Jaden Daniels just for some reason, but you are, that's a big advantage, right? Like you could take him and they can't. It doesn't mean you're going to win the tournament, but now you can exploit them. But then now let's say the field can take 3% Jaden Daniels. We'll just assume whatever the week in this theory, in this analogy, he's really good. Well, you should still take him, but maybe you should take him a little less, right? Because now you're playing it's more. Now let's say the field takes him at 7%. Now we're starting to you should probably get closer to that 7% number and not just put him on all in your 150s. And then because now your opponent, you can't exploit your opponent and they can exploit you, right? You're just trying to get to that equilibrium point of, okay, now the field's at 12%. Well, now it doesn't matter what you do because it's dead on right. Right. Whether you go over or under that, which is kind of like why I've always said, like, when people say they want like accurate salary pricing, it's like, no, you don't. It's the last thing you want, because then it doesn't matter what you do. If they could bake in everything into salary, which they can't, but like in theory, if they could, because then your opponent doesn't matter what side they pick.
Yeah. And so this would be, Nerdy says equilibrium strategies where everyone is equally smart and trying to maximize EV at equilibrium. Nobody can get an edge. And then in these games, right, you get the leveling to get to this equilibrium. Like for some reason, my mind just went to Showdown DFS where it was like, you used to just play the best plays. And then I was like, oh shit, I need to sacrifice projection for you a unique lineup. I need to leave salary on the table. And then it's like, well, if everyone's leaving salary on the table, now we are all we're moving toward an equilibrium strategy where everybody's like balanced in how they play. And there's not like a definitive edge relative to the field because the whole field is so smart.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, this is the age old, the poker bros have, beat this to death, right? Is which one do you do? Is it even worth it? I mean, even, Ricky D, who's also poker bro, has come on this show and said that, equilibrium strategy is bullshit in DFS, so like, then this is what we started this conversation with, like, when do you use it? What should you use it? And I do think there is a really good, like, a lot of good uses of it for like the stack percentage stuff.
Yeah.
Mixing and matching when it doesn't matter. And it will show you the clear and obvious dominated strategies, or whatever the term is, where a player is going to be, Justin Jefferson, for example, where it's just like, no, you just pick him, dummy. Just pick him.
It's just been on my mind a lot because I in a huge part because of what you guys are doing at in-game, and obviously the ownership and the roster combos and the sim results, is like, I definitely approach slates like very differently. I've had some of my slates where it has been super exploitative, where I'm just like, these are the guys who are under owned and I just want to have a ton of them. And then the week that I had my really good top 2 finish, like that was more, I was really spread out that week. And I just had that one good Geno lineup basically. And then like last week, I really kind of sketched out my exposures and was trying to play more like Equillibrium with it, of like optimal rates across the board. And so I'm kind of just like calibrating and trying to feel like what plays best to my style. How do I actually want to approach a slate? Because I've definitely been swingy with how I approach the slates, which is kind of fun, right? Like try something out, see how it works. But I'm trying to figure out like what is actually my best path for a 150 max.
I don't think Dan releases the combo data publicly, like the Daniels McLaurin thing, but because like that's just a no-brainer for me, like for you, because you have all this stuff, like, so you have like, all the subscriptions, you could just go right to the caddy, and you draft later too, like you draft Saturday, right, or Sunday, because it'll be much more accurate then. The draft caddy projections for sure. The combo stuff too is, it takes.
And this all comes back to, again, why, we joke about the games being solved, but I'm still telling you, even I think I'm playing well this year. I have a lot of tools at my disposal. And when I'm batch drafting teams 5-10 at a time, trying to get in my max entries, the amount of mistakes, the amount of things that I'm not able to account for, I'm not largely accounting for the high combo rates in some spots where it's like, if you just sit there, and again, I know no one has time for this, right, but you do one draft at a time and you are looking at these things, you can build really fucking good teams that even the best drafters are not getting to, because we are all trying to do a million things at once and trying to draft way too many teams.
I agree. We were just talking about this. Because I was saying, because Gumby does like these post-lock sims analysis stuff, and I was thinking, and he said NBA and NFL are like the close in EV for the good players. And I was thinking like NFL's got to be higher. And like for that reason alone, like you could, because I can't remember what the number is, 16%, Dan, if you're still here, where like on average, what would be the EQ number on average for 100% drafted players? And I think it's 16%, something like that. Whatever that number is anyways, like you go in and you could see like the projections and ownership projections of the combos, like they'll be like 30%, 40%, like uncorrelated players like Brock Bowers and Jaden Daniels. And it's like, just avoid that. Don't be an idiot. And that's a huge edge. Like it's crazy to think about, but that really is a big edge.
And it's true. And again, like if you're doing one team and even two teams at once, maybe even 3, that's really easy to sort by that, look at that. But the second you're doing, 5 to 10 at once, which I know a lot of high volume, it's really like you can focus on one, but I promise you, you're going to auto timeout on the other, then you're going to land on that combo. And then it's like, well, maybe you have some differentiated ranks in that are going to help you even as a fallback, not land on the default combo as if you're drafting off the ADP or ETR ranks or something. So there's all these levels to it. But to me, I would just say to the people who aren't getting in high volume, and I get this comment a lot, similar people are like, I can't even put 150 into the Wildcat or whatever. And I'm like, you can build way better teams than the mass entry bros. Like one at a time.
Yeah.
Get this data, stare at it. You can build really strong teams. You don't need 150.
Yeah, just do 12 teams, but you just pay attention to the combos every time. I was thinking we could put it on the draft caddy in like a little matrix, maybe.
Yeah.
So say you take Henry, number 6. Well, then Henry pops up with his highest 2 combos or something like that.
That I think would be really helpful stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe we would come up with just like an ownership threshold for it, where it's like over this percentage threshold is just like too much, and it just shows you uncorrelated plays that have a high ownership over a certain threshold.
Yeah, right. And because we could reuse that for BBM in theory.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So maybe we
yeah,
but yeah, you got to be doing this.
I do worry about it less in any of the sports that have pod dynamics, right? Because there's so many teams that get weeded out with like the advancement structures where like sometimes like the frequently paired combo, it's like, sure, that's in the massive field of BBM, but even after just one round, so many of those are wiped out. And then you're competing against only 15 other rosters in your round 1 pod, where I think the combo stuff isn't like quite as important, but in BR, I think it's immensely important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess whatever the equilibrium number is for those should matter too, just the same way, right? Like you just got to know what that number is. And that's kind of the problem is like, if you don't know what the number should be, then we're back to astrology, bro. Kind of, we're like, I should be under that. I should be over that. Well, how do you know?
But I just mean like every week, the way BBM's working, round 1, you're competing against 11 other teams, round 2, 15 other teams, round 4. It's not when you get to the finals, I guess, then you're against, 400 plus teams or whatever. But I think the way those pod dynamics work, it's like you're just in a 12-person contest there in week 16.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of making an adjacent point. Yeah,
okay.
I agree with you. I'm saying just like this talk of combos in general.
Yeah, be
careful of being an astrology bro, but just like thinking you're doing all this fancy stuff, because if you don't know what the Daniels McLaurin number should be, then how do you know whether to go over or under it? Now, I mean, like if you know ball, like you just figure that out, do a bunch of drafts and be like, oh, it should be this around this. It's too high this week. That's fine too. But
yeah. And I think the reason that's so crucial is kind of, it dovetails what I was talking with at the top, right? Where say there's, again, just my arbitrary range, like 7 to 15 players that have the highest ceilings on the slate. There's going to be a couple of combos, specifically like the 101, right? Because then you get the 101 and then the 2-3 turn. Like you can often capture 3 of those top 15 players there. That is the combo that shows up the most. And I remember a couple of weeks ago looking at the draft caddy data, and I want to say it was like CMC, Kelsey, and Puka. And it was like they were 3 of the top players on the slate. You could really only get all 3 of them from the 101, the way the like snake draft dynamics work. And so people were just like, it had an absurd for a 3-man rate. It was like a 35% for 3 players. And it was like, to your point, obviously you're not passing on CMC, but it's like, man, any other, just go past Kelsey to Bowers, get Bowers in there, just do any little thing, because the field is smart enough to know that those 3 players are top 12 players that should all be drafted, but they're going to be subjected to the ADP correlation funneling them into a higher combo than you'd like.
Definitely. And by the way, I'm not saying, so who was it? Cooper Cup, CMC, and then whoever the third person was. This doesn't mean you don't take them. It just means you don't take them in that specific combo order.
Exactly.
Right. And also too, like, Dan always, adds this caveat. Sometimes like if the combo is ridiculous value, you still take it because it's just rare to get, like, let's say CMC drops to 12 or something. And then for some reason you can get this same, it's like, well, you still gobble up all that value. But like the reason that they are in that 1, 2, 3 slot is probably not because of the value though. It's just because it lines up, positionally or something like that. And all you got to do is just take Cooper Cup, but in a different draft, not with CMC, and you could still get the exposure you want to him, just not in that specific combo.
Yeah. And Aaron brings up a a good point too. So this week there's such a clear 101. Barkley's going against the Panthers, biggest team total on the slate, best running back to ever play the fucking game, apparently. He's gonna go 101, which means the 1-1 like last week, it was kind of a choose your own adventure. Like people were just taking whoever. Some wanted Mixon, some wanted, Nico. I forget now who were the other ones in the mix there, but you're going to get naturally funneled. And the other thing, when I've looked at the in-game syndicate, the caddy combo stuff, is it's often rainbow pairing positionally, right? So it was like that one I gave was running back, wide receiver, tight end, because there's this comfy feeling of like, I get a top player at each of these 3 different positions, where you won't see it often like running back, or wide receiver, because reflexively, when people are drafting kind of on autopilot, they're like, give me the best wide receiver, give me the best running back. Ooh, the best tight ends here too. So I have noticed like the rainbow positional stuff is also what seems to cluster into the top combos.
Yeah. The anchoring effect is so big, right? The anchoring bias on ADP that, these combos are going to get overowned. It's just that bias is legitimate. Did we talk about the other bias? The bounded rationality?
No, I haven't heard you talk about this.
Let me see if I can find the definition. Of course, my ChatGPT logged out. Yeah, but I really need this definition. So give me a second. You talk about something.
I mean, I just Googled it.
Yeah, what does it say?
Bounded rationality is the idea that people make decisions that are not perfectly rational due to limits on their knowledge, time, and mental capacity. Instead of making the best possible choice, people often settle for a satisfactory one.
That's it. Who knew Google would give us the answer?
I will say the new Google one, though, it's it's actually the AI overview from Google is their top results. It's not even their old.
That actually is pretty decent sometimes.
Yeah.
And quicker, still quicker than they're behind the times, man. It's funny that Google's like a dinosaur. So like, let's apply that to best ball. Is bros are, not paying attention, drafting too many drafts, and they're like, shit, I need a QB or something, right? I don't want to miss out. And then they make what seemingly rational choice that's actually shitty.
Yeah.
So it's another one that happens a lot. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a phenomenon that I think dovetails with that in DFS a lot of times is the choice that doesn't make you look stupid, right?
Yeah.
Where, it's sometimes you're doing the sim streams, right? And it's like, take this running back who has an ADP in the 6th round and it's telling you to pick him in the 3rd. And it's like, oh, you're going to look stupid. You can just get him there. And it's like, well, what if the benefits aren't only that you're getting a low-owned player, but it's pushing you into a different roster construction that like 99% of the field is going to make, because they're going to draft in a rationally bounded way to the ADP construct. I think of that so much in fantasy and best ball. I remember, and when you stream stuff, this comes up a lot where you're like, do I look like an idiot? Even though I think I'm not sacrificing that much and the uniqueness benefits might actually be really good, but it's like, I'll kind of look like I'm crazy if I do this.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. The DFS is kind of like way more anonymous. So my point is like that there's way more like Kahneman type of biases. Thinking fast and slow. You can all the best ball bros should read that one, and you could just take advantage of known human biases. And that's 3 of them right there. I would say that's slightly different than bounded rationality, but similar like human bias.
Well, is there no stronger illustration of that than the whole concept of scrolling down, right? Is that we are also anchored to the ADP that has ordered these players for us, that we feel dumb swimming against that current, going against that grain, being like, no, the market said these are the 8 players that you should take with your last pick. It's like, holy shit, I took a guy with a 35.9 ADP. Even when you do it, like I do it every fucking week, and I'm still like, man, this feels thin. It feels thin.
Yes, for sure. At the end, because you don't want to feel like an idiot. To your point, it's another with the bounded rationality thing. I think it's a lot of like tight ends, QBs. Like you'll see a tight end go like his ADP, I think will be unnaturally and then just incorrectly high due to bounded rationality. So like they'll be like, tight ends suck this week. Just I'll take Njoku. I was gonna say Tony Gonzalez. It's like what year is it? But Tony Gonzalez back in the day, right? Like he would always go high, and it was always like questionable. It's like, man, is Tony Gonzalez should he really be a first round pick in my home league? But like people have this issue where they're like, this is complex. I'm on a clock. Just give me the tight end because I know I'm going to need a fucking tight end. There's no tight ends this week. And I think that just kind of moves him up.
Yeah.
Saying he's not a good pick this week, but
this comes back to one of the quotes from the intro to LOLz, pull up random number generator and let the DFS gods decide for you. I will tell you, I do it still a decent bit of the time. Like if you have your ranks in there and you find yourself getting tethered to it, you set a range, 1 to 8, roll it. And my last pick is going to be within that range. And like, cause I know I fall into those biases too. One guy feels comfier to me. I click him over and over. You let RNG decide. It's like, okay, yeah, now I'm actually balancing out these exposures because I don't actually feel that strongly about one versus the other.
It's a legitimate strategy. I know it's I overuse it, but it's in real life, but it's a legitimate strategy. When the EV is the same, it literally does not matter. And a lot of these late round picks. So, I mean, the first step I would do is, if you have time, but it's hard, look at the combos, look at the ownership data, and then but if all that's equal, just roll.
Well, and the nice thing is a lot of times, like if you're debating between your last pick, right? I'm not quite as worried about the combos for the 6th round picks, right? Because if you look at the combo data that you guys have and you see all the stuff that bubbles up, occasionally there'll be like a 3rd or 4th rounder as part of the most frequented combos if it's a stack. But a lot of times the like non-correlated combos that are showing up a ton are tightly bunched in those like first 15 to 20 picks. Whereas I feel like the one-off picks at the end, because the game tree, right, just keeps like widening and widening when you get there, that it's harder for a 6th round pick to show up as like a really frequented combo.
Yeah, I want to say like the tight ends is more frequently in the 6th round some weeks. It seems like that could be random, but I think you're right. There's also there's noise here that we could be wrong on some of this stuff. But certainly I think one of the reasons you're seeing that, Pete, is because those top 15 guys are getting 100% drafted every week. You're just going to see more combos of 100% drafted players. Like if a guy's picked 50% of the time or 60%, which is still pretty high, he's just not going to be in as many combos with other people.
Yeah. And where you will see it, right, and this is where it gets interesting. This is like levels on levels. Say you have a 50% undrafted guy. He might be this dynamic happens a lot with like a quarterback who's largely going undrafted. Like the Jefferson Darnold stuff is a really good example. Jefferson will get drafted in 100% of drafts. Darnold will not, but like 95% of Darnold teams will be with Justin Jefferson.
Right.
So then it's like, you actually then want to start thinking about Jefferson without Darnold, Darnold without Jefferson, because you're not actually getting the undrafted benefits of Darnold if you pair him with the one guy he's always paired with.
Right. And, to circle back to the EQ thing, that would be a perfect example of another spot to use an EQ solver, because then okay, when Jefferson and Darnold are drafted, how drafted should they be together? What should the field do if everyone was playing, if everyone was sharp and they can't exploit each other? What would that number be? And then you can look at the combo data or guess, and then make your astrology or make an astrology guess and go over or under that number.
Yep. I just did poke in the Discord. I don't think Nerdy has posted his week 14 sim data yet, but I believe I even saw in there maybe a little birdie asking him about some 12-person stuff, because this week not only do we have the Dog Bowl live final, that's a little different because it's a self-contained final, but Underdog has a massive contest for the 12-person drafts this week. The goal line stand much bigger than usual, $20,000 first prize in that contest. So I think Nerdy said he is, sweet. He's going to post those. So if you guys are in the in-game syndicate Discord, I gave that a shout out on my Deposit Kingdom video the other week as well. Very fun data to look through. Even if don't let it overwhelm you, I think it's just a fun like guidepost, and it can kind of challenge some of your priors on how to use these players. I've had a lot of my priors challenged on it in a fun way. I think it's really helpful stuff if you're drafting a lot of BR teams.
Yeah, and he has the structure data too, like how many 3 wide receiver teams should there be this week. I find that helpful because instead of guessing, like you like when you're doing some of these, I'm sure Pete, since I feel this and I barely do any, you do way more, is you're like, man, am I taking too many or not enough 3 wide receivers this week? Is it high this week? Or
yeah.
And that'll give you kind of a rough guess at what it should be this week. So you're not, going crazy.
And what's fun about them too is like when you look at the granular stack rates for individual quarterbacks, like some of them like seem weird and again run counter to what you'd maybe naturally assume, but then you really start to unpack it just like intuitively, and it starts to make sense. Like last week, for example, there was a lot of naked Justin Herbert, and like intuitive thought would be like Justin Herbert not going to run a ton. Clearly, you double stack or single stack him, right? Like he's going to be throwing if he gets there, and then you think about the offense, how spread out it is, how we haven't seen like monster 25 to 30 point ceilings from any given guy. They're all kind of capped. And it's like, there are a lot of scenarios where Justin Herbert's optimal and all of his guys score somewhere from 13 to 18 points and are not the nutted stack you need to win, a 50,000 person contest. And then you tease it out, but then you look at say like CJ Stroud and Nico, and it's like, well, Nico has a 30-point ceiling. And you can see that, him stacked with that makes a ton of sense, that why you're going to need to stack Stroud at a much higher percentage than you would Herbert. So it is fun to take kind of like your intuitive thoughts on some of these offenses and then see how it's actually reflected in the sim data.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, especially because I'm kind of lost without, all these tools. Not really a baller.
Well, but it just goes to show even the people who know ball, like the way we interpret or think of these things in our head can get distorted to actually how these games play out. And then the math can like actually like, slap you silly. And you're like, no, that actually does make sense. It's not like the math is wrong. It actually intuitively tracks. There was just like a mental barrier to getting there.
Davis said on the stream earlier, he's like, what was that? Is that directed at me or you? I don't know.
I don't know. You never know.
He goes, I'm taking this player because I'm getting, you don't understand, I'm getting different in this combo. And it's like, okay. But I'm like, but how do you know? Like, cause he didn't like go look at the combo data. Like, how do you know? He's like, cause I know.
You feel it, man.
So, I mean, like, it's right. That's exactly what he should do. But you better really know ball for sure if you're going to guess at like for sure these which is possible because he did 30 drafts already this week. So like I imagine by your 100th draft, you probably should have some of these combos. I
will say this is going back to the edge of just doing like 1 or 2 drafts at a time versus like you pick up so much more on like Fields' tendencies when you're watching a board. And like when I'm multi-tabling, I'm not paying attention to what anyone else is fucking doing. Like I'm drafting my teams, I'm getting the exposures I want. Sometimes that has a time and a place, but like if you do really want to get a feel for what the field is doing, just like literally staring at a few of these boards and like you will quickly get a good feel for it.
No draft greater than no ball. Like the best example is those playoff best ball drafts.
Yeah.
Like that no draft edge is huge.
All right, we're going to shut it down a little early today. I'm cramming a ton of stuff into my Thursday because I'm traveling to Dallas tomorrow for the Dog Bowl. We're going to have the Shipcast tonight. I'm actually recording with JM this afternoon, but that show, Block Party, will air at its normal time. I'll have the Deposit Kingdom video like normal tomorrow afternoon. Off and on the Clock is going to be live from Dallas tomorrow night around 8 p.m. Eastern. And then I have a couple other special shows over the weekend. I think I'm doing one with Josh Norris on the Underdog channel, have some other ones with the Badge Bros, lots of content from the Dog Bowl. That's for me, Brian. What do you guys got going at In-Game Syndicate?
We should have a couple new videos coming out this next week and a half or so.
Nice.
Draft Caddy should have the playoff update coming today, tomorrow, hopefully soon.
Awesome. Yep. If you're interested in all that data that we were talking about on the show, whether it's the nerdy stuff that you can get access to in the in-game syndicate Discord, whether it's the combo data that you can get access to via the draft caddy, all that is part of your in-game syndicate sub. And I believe, Brian, there's a discount, right? If you use, if you sign up for in-game with the caddy, you get the discount?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a discount for caddy. It's supposed to be for caddy only, Dave. But I guess we could just say for whoever. Caddy 25.
Caddy 25. There you go. Very helpful stuff if you're diving in here. And I don't know, I'm already getting like sad. You know, we got like 3 more main slates. You know, I obviously have to abstain from week 18 when I will become a cash game grinder.
Right.
You know,
well, you need that edge. I
know.
I mean, who? I mean, that's like 80 cents an hour. You can't just give that away.
No, I can't. So, you know, only a few more slates to really dig in and enjoy it. I am going to miss it when it goes away. Appreciate you guys hanging out in the chat. Enjoy all of your on paper Bitcoin gains, and we'll see you guys next time on LOLz. Peace.